You're listening to the Bear in Mind podcast, episode number 34.
A podcast uncovering identity, color, and love, where driving yourself crazy is totally sane and curable. Now your host, T. Vias.
Did you know that the term gaslighting is based on a play from 1938 by Patrick Hamilton? And in the 1940s, there were two film adaptations, one in the UK and then one in the United States of America. And today we use that term to refer to a type of kind of manipulation, and it gets mixed in also with terms like narcissism, and it can get kind of, I think, especially in my head, it gets kind of confusing with all of these terms. And one of the things I found is when I began to understand what the actual terms were referring to, it kind of cleared up what manipulation and influence and gaslighting actually are. And then understanding the mechanics, how each of them work, it actually helped me not be manipulated. So I think going through this, if you ever find yourself getting caught off guard, that actually understanding the mechanics, how each of these work, will actually help you or prevent you from being in a situation where you are manipulated. So first up, gaslighting. Gaslighting is actually a type of manipulation. There are a lot of different tactics of manipulation. And for example, one of them is, physical coercion, which I won't be discussing. Physically threatening somebody, I won't be discussing that here. So the tactic of gaslighting as a type of manipulation is actually presenting false information to somebody else with the idea of creating doubt in their own memories or their own judgments. And this is actually what happens in the play and film termed gaslighting, is false information is presented to someone so that the main actress starts to doubt what they actually see. So at that time, because it's an older film, it refers to the lighting of the lamps on the street before electricity was widely available. And the main character, she would see the lights flicker. And her husband would tell her, no, they're not flickering, when in fact they actually are flickering. And so throughout the course of the movie, she begins to doubt actually what she actually is seeing, even though the truth is the lights are actually going on and off. And another example of this, which I touch on in episode 31, Why We Argue, because gaslighting is a reason why we argue, is I had sent emails to my mom and she said I didn't send her emails. Now, there is proof in my inbox or my sent items box that I have sent her emails. And she's telling me I'm not doing that. And when I have tried to say, well, let's clarify it, she kind of wants to remain at the, no, this is the actual circumstance of the situation. So this is actually what's happening. You're not staying in touch. You're not sending emails. And sometimes people aren't intentionally trying to gaslight you or change your reality. It's that they're more comfortable having a disagreement at this level of, okay, this is actually what's happening. This is the truth. And these are the facts. And then that kind of discussion is more comfortable to them rather than getting at what's actually happening. Now, gaslighting gets misused. The term actually gets misused a lot because people think that it's happening when somebody else is presenting their perception of the facts. Now, so something could happen and someone has an opinion, a perception, a viewpoint of what is actually happening. And then we often use that term to say, well, they're gaslighting me, when in reality, there's actually just two different viewpoints about the circumstances or facts of the situation. So basically, gaslighting is where you can actually prove that something has happened or not happened. and it's a type of manipulation. So then if we look at what is the difference between being manipulated or somebody trying to influence you, how do you distinguish between those two things? And the way I kind of distinguish between manipulation and influence is two criteria. One is the intention or the motive of someone ahead of time. And that's influence to me. And you can see this if you think of social media influencers. Oftentimes they'll have paid partnership in their posts so that they know that they're being paid for it, and the intention is to influence you to buy a product or service. And the same is true when you go into a store and you're wanting to buy something. Let's say you're going to buy a car. The salesperson is going to try to influence you to buy a car today. And they're going to use several tactics, and they could very well use manipulative tactics. For example, they could gaslight you, present you with false information about an automobile. However, the intention of that salesperson is known to you. So that's one way you can tell the difference between manipulation and influence. The second criteria, how I can tell the difference, because sometimes even in manipulation, the intention or motive can be clear. And the way you can tell that it's manipulation is that there's a gain and a loss involved. So if you look at the car salesman example, he wants to sell you a car, and that would be his gain. However, if you say to him, I want to think about it, and you walk out of the store without purchasing a car, there is no loss for you. He isn't going to take your information and do something detrimental to you. He's going to move on to the next person that walks into the store. And so this play of gain and loss is going to be the biggest sign that manipulation is occurring, even if the motive is clear of the person who's actually doing the manipulation. And so if you look at the gain, what it means to the manipulator is that they want you to do something, or they want you to stop doing something. So they want to, quote unquote, control a behavior of yours. Or it could be just a behavior of how you think about something. But ultimately, they want you to do something. An example could be where you know the person's motive. So a friend of yours could say, hey, could you help me move? And she doesn't want to spend money on a removal company. So she asks you, hey, can you help me move this weekend? And part of equipping yourself not to be manipulated is actually knowing what you want to do and knowing your fears and insecurities. And so let's say you are very clear that you don't want to help your friend move this weekend. Maybe you have other plans, or you just don't want to do it because it's backbreaking work. And you tell her, look, I can't help you move. Now, the way to tell that that's manipulation is that then your friend will create a loss in your life. They may then not talk to you for, even if it's a week or a couple weeks, kind of punish you, maybe not invite you to go out. And so there'll be kind of this loss in friendship. And so this is where it can play on a fear or insecurity of yours, is that if you really fear losing your friendship with this other person, is that when they create a loss by not talking to you for a period of time, not inviting you to stuff, is that you try to correct this based on your own fear that you're losing your friendship, and now try to overdo things for your friend and be more available to your friend the next time around. And so you may over apologize and it might try to do things for them. And then that can go back and forth in the relationship. So there's that sense of a gain and loss, and especially in manipulative relationships where somebody is gaining, so you're doing something that they want you to do, and then if you don't do it, there's a loss. And this kind of pattern can happen quite often, and we don't even realize it because we can't see what the actual gain is and what the loss is happening, because it's playing on our deepest desires. If we want, for example, in the example of the friend wanting to help us move, our deepest desires maybe is to have friends in our life, a sense of community, and our deepest fear is to lose that sense of friendship and community. So I'm going to wrap it up here, and I highly recommend that you check out one of the films called Gaslighting. And I talk a little bit more about gaslighting in episode 31 called Why We Argue. And I'll check back with you next week.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.